Good evening, everybody. Hello. My name is Carolyn J. Carpenter. I'm on the, I have a microphone somewhere.
You don't need it.
So when he brings it back, but I shout, like, I'm not shy. So I am on the Assistance League Board of Directors, and we are here to present this friendly forum as kind of a celebratory towards the end of the campaign, so we can just get to know our candidates in these last few days and just really kind of see what they're about. So I just wanted to start right out the gate with thanking Jim Schaub and the Business Expo Center, because they provided the space for us this evening. So it's a free event, free community service event. So if you ever need an event, I used to run a haunted house in the corner over there. There's like big old room over here. So definitely take a minute to check it out. A little plug for Jim, but definitely check it out because they have really great events. And I serve on a lot of boards and committees for nonprofits. And I've worked with personally probably 5 or 6 different nonprofits that he's helped support. As we were here today, Cops for Kids came in and he was helping them out. And they have their, I told him I'd do a plug, which is LA Confidential coming up this coming Friday. So for Cops for Kids. So, you know, he's just really good and really gives back to the community. He's walking around here when I point it, I'll point him out if he comes out. But and he's just got this great staff. He's right there. There he is. Say hi, Tim. He's fixing my mic. So yeah, I can't say enough. He's an Anaheim guy, 63 years in Anaheim, right, Jim? 63. Yeah. So he's your guy.
That's my age. Yeah, long time.
So, and we also have Assistance League is putting on this event. Assistance League has been around 4 decades, practically 100 years, and we do all kinds of programs. If you'd like to know more information about Assistance League, we are actually actively looking for projects to do. So if you know of a need in your community, please go to our Facebook page. Let us know, come to our website, which is alanaheim.org, and let us know what it is that you see in your community that you need. We are here to do that. That's why we provided this service today. We've been around for a long time. We want people to know that we're still here, still going strong, and actually looking for opportunities. So if people who are from Assistance League kind of raise your hand or stand or say hello, that's our president. Hello, that's Leslie. She's our president this year. And she has a job to do later that I'll explain. And then we also have Christina back in the corner there. She's a vice president, and she provides the catering this evening. So Sally Ann Catering is the catering, and if you need a caterer, so you've got an event space, you have a caterer, let's have a party. Like, we're ready to go, right? So these are like really amazing people in our community. Sally Ann Catering is phenomenal, high-end events. They do so many events, and she is, I mean, I do a lot of events, but she is hands down the best I've ever seen in thematic. Like, if you have a theme of something, she'll take it to a degree she's so creative you will never even dream of. So definitely Sally Ann Catering if you need catering. So I just wanted to let you know who the people are that provided things for this evening and, you know, are doing it all gratis and just so that we can provide the service. So definitely use their services. That's the way that we give back to them as well. So I basically just wanted to do what my son calls a little monologue. So I hope it doesn't come across condescending, because I have the utmost respect for all of the community members that showed up tonight, all of the candidates. We are the people that are making change in Anaheim, right? We are the ones that care. We may not get there in the same ways, but we are the ones that care about our community. So I just wanted to kind of take a minute and say the reason that we started to come up with this event, it came about where we were kind of talking, you know, as friends and colleagues and saying, you know, I'm going to vote for this person or that person. And I realized that I was like, well, I'm not going to vote for so-and-so. And then I was like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't know where they stand. I don't know what the issues are. I was like, what am I even saying? So I decided, So I decided to just, you know, really start to get to know the candidates and really make a difference. So we kind of came together and said, you know, there might be other people like us. We realized at the time that we came up with the idea, it was kind of late in the game. But then we thought, well, maybe if they're interested, and they just jumped right on board. So I'm super appreciative of the candidates for jumping on board. And then this became, because this looks like it's going to be the last forum of the season. So we're hoping that this can be a celebratory day and not a day of slinging, not a day. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things, and we really want this to be a positive place where we can just, you know, if you need to know certain issues about what the candidates, they all have social media. They all have websites. I've looked at them all. And they have their positions on measures, and they have their positions on things on their social media and their websites. You can find out those details about them easily. Today, we wanted to kind of get them to know them as people and as community members, because one of these people, and including the people who weren't able to make it tonight, Lori actually got in a car accident. So I guess she's doing okay, but she had some back issues and so she wasn't able to attend. Rudy had some scheduling problems right out the gate. And then hopefully Fuji and Tony will show up. But basically one of these people is going to move forward and lead Anaheim as mayor. The other 7 are going to move forward and lead Anaheim as leaders. Just because you're mayor or not mayor, I mean, I've actually known city council members that have said, oh, I'm finally off city council, I can get something done. So it is kind of like, you know, they are constantly working, and as I've served in a lot of boards, I worked at the YMCA for a long time. I got to know many city council members, many along in the last 20 years, I've probably worked at every city council member we've had. And they all have this amazing spirit and this one thing in common, that they are just like, they're go-getters and they're ready to get things done. And like I said before, their paths might be different. I might not agree with them all the time, but they all carry that just amazing courage, because I don't know about you, but this is all terrifying. So I couldn't do it. And the fact that they're able to take the slings and get out there and just continue to go, and I mean, that's the definition of courage, right? Is to keep going whether you're afraid or not. So I really commend all of you for that. It's really, really astounding. So basically, I'm going to kind of go down how this will work. One, we're being recorded right now. It's streaming onto a webinar, and then Assistance League will be able to provide that webinar where people need to log on. So it won't be like a Facebook Live and kind of crazy that way. It's a webinar where people need to log on so that then they can watch and hear the positions. And so Assistance League is going to help. We have a lot of seniors. We'd like to get that out to as many seniors as we can over the next week so that they can see the positions and we can do it that way. So we are reaching a smaller group today, but we intend to reach hundreds over the next week while they're making their final decisions. So with that in mind, what we've done is the committee at Assistance League created a series of questions. And so we created some questions looking at all of the information that we had about what are the issues, what are people concerned about. And your questions, I've been reading your questions, and we basically have got most of your questions already in what we're asking. So we'll go down and we'll start, they drew a number and it starts down at the end over there, and they'll speak in order. They each get 3 minutes, and our president will be your timer. So, yes, ma'am. Oh, thank you for reminding me. So Leslie will be the timer, and she will raise her hand at 2:45 to give you kind of an idea. So before we go into the rest of the rules, let's do the flag salute. Cindy just reminded me. Thank you so much. So please stand. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cynthia. So they'll each have 3 minutes to answer their question, and then the next person will answer it. So they've drawn numbers, and then for the second question, number 2 will go, and so on. So, and we'll just kind of go through the questions. They each get 3 minutes. At the end of that, if we have time, then we'll go to the questions that people submitted tonight. And like I said, most of them are within the questions as well. So, if you didn't submit a question, you can if you want still, but pretty much, I think we're covered. So I think that's it. I just want to make sure all my notes. So candidates, if you wouldn't mind, when you answer the first question, just kind of introduce yourself. That would be awesome. And we're going to start with the first question. Our first question tonight is, so we are Assistance League. We are, a nonprofit. So we kind of want to start with maybe some nonprofits that you're involved in, and how would you help service organizations and nonprofits such as the Assistance League get more Anaheim large corporation support within our city. So, Mr. City. Yes, sir.
Well, thank Okay.
Yes, if you could do an intro real quick and then answer the question.
Yes. My name is Harry Sidhu. My background, I came to this country 44 years ago from India. With $6 in my pocket. Worked as a janitor, put myself to college. Became an engineer, worked for Hughes Aircraft. Then after 10 years later, I started a business, and I got into the fast food chain of store building stores, creating jobs. And I built almost about 28 different businesses throughout Orange County, San Diego County, and Riverside County. I served on the city council for 8 years, from 2004 to 2012. I have experience what it takes to run the city. I'm a businessman. I still have 85 people who work for me. Glad to have you on board today. Okay. Let me answer the question that is put forward. Building community partnership is the key to establishing support for nonprofit and service organizations such as Assistance League. As a longtime business owner and public servant, I'm deeply committed to meeting the needs of the Anaheim community and developing beneficial opportunities through innovative problem-solving experience and common sense leadership. Corporations, as well as the small businesses, have charitable giving goals or programs. It is important to establish a planned approach in identifying businesses to reach out and explaining how support of nonprofit or service organizations will benefit businesses and the community at large. It's the win-win opportunity. As a mayor, I'll continue to be a champion for nonprofit and service organizations like the Assistant League by supporting the establishment of such partnership that will allow these important organizations to reach and promote these goals and contribution from local community. That is what I did as a city council member, establishing free healthcare, free Anaheim healthcare in our city, building businesses, donor contributions, and volunteer support to provide much needed free medical, dental, and vision care services for tens of thousands of men and women and children in our community. Thank you.
Hold the button for 1 second, it'll turn green.
Trying to find the button. Good evening. I'm Cynthia Ward. I am very proud to be a native of Anaheim. Grew up in the Lynbrook neighborhood, running around without shoes or parental supervision, told to be home when the street lights were on. And in the summertime, our curfew was be home right after the fireworks. It is impossible to grow up in a town like that where your nighttime curfew is this world-renowned pyrotechnics display set off by a fairy creature who's flying around a castle and not grow up thinking that you live in a pretty special place. And this is where my husband and I chose to raise our 4 children to adulthood with limited damage to those concerned. And we want to spend the rest of our days here. And we got to a place where we realized this might not be the best place for our sunset years because of the direction City Hall was taking us. We felt like the budget no longer reflected the values of our family or the values of our neighborhoods. And having been a volunteer my entire adult life, I see public service as just another volunteer gig. It's just doing something to make my city better because I think I bring something to the dance. As far as this particular question, I want to be very careful in the way that I answer it because the question is specific to large corporations bringing money to the nonprofits. When the private sector donates to a nonprofit at the behest of an elected leader or public official, it's called a behested payment. You have to actually report it for the purpose of conflict of interest, just like a gift or an investment or anything with a public official. So it's really important to be careful in the way that that happens because too often we see situations where a corporation that has business before the city council gives to a favorite charity or even a charity that employs a public official, and then they come back with business before those same people. And while they might not be pocketing that dollars, their notoriety goes up because they get to serve on a board that requires you to raise X amount of dollars, and you've just done that with somebody that has an interest in Anaheim. And so I want to make sure that we stay on top of those behested payment reports while still making sure that our nonprofits get what they need. I am all in for giving every public dollar I can identify in our budget to our nonprofits. Because why should we reinvent the wheel? We've got amazing people in this city willing to give their time and their resources. And if we can maximize that, we don't have to come up with staff programs to do the same thing. Every time a kid is learning to kick a soccer ball with Joe Baldo at Higher Ground, that means we don't have to send a cop to chase him down later because he got into a gang. Or God forbid, have to knock on the door and tell his mother he was shot by somebody because they thought he was somebody else. Every time your Operation School Bell finds uniforms for kids, We don't have to send a truant officer out for that kid because they're too embarrassed to come to school. So it makes sense for us to invest. And as efficient as our staff can be at City Hall, nobody on earth can squeeze a nickel like a nonprofit board member. Can I get an amen for that? We can sense a clearance sale before we walk into the building. And I think that I'm probably not the only woman in this room who has permanently indented her children's fingers for about a week, spray painting 2,000 things silver because we needed them for the gala. And the white ones were on discount, so I made them silver. So it makes sense for us to divert public dollars into the nonprofits. Things like the Halloween parade and the 4th of July parade should not depend on fundraisers to the level that they do. Some because there's a camaraderie to that fundraising that I would miss, but we need to invest more in our community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Robert Williams. I am born and bred out of Fresno. I've been in this area for around 16 and a half years. Came down here with an ambulance company right after the Rodney King riots, and we did mutual aid in Los Angeles County. And Goodhue Ambulance is like, this guy's got a good work ethic, let's hire him. So without any ado, they hired me and I haven't left. Came down to Anaheim to work at Anaheim Memorial, and part of the regulation requirement was you have to live 5 minutes from the hospital to be part of our disaster response team. That's what brought me to Anaheim as an Anaheim resident, and I haven't left. I love it. Organizations, I'm a member of the National Association of EMS Educators, the National Association of EMTs, full-fledged supporter of the Code Green campaign, which is a suicide prevention for EMS workers, and a supporter of the Code 9 campaign, which is also, actually it's called Code 9, which is also supporting EMS workers against suicide prevention. I think it's really important to be involved, but I don't like waving a flag. There's a lot of things that we do privately because it's either for personal reasons or spiritual reasons. So you kind of do things to keep them in your back pocket. And I've got a lot of those things going on. Just to share one of them is I mentor 8 young ladies. One of my girls who I love to pieces, she is a street girl. She's a street kid. It took us about a year to get her off the street with a family, you know, and that's something I do from the heart. It's not something I'm going to wave a flag about and say I do that. When we ask about public services, I do a lot of them, but there are things that are special to me that I'm not going to go touting and waving. With that being said, I don't have a speech written. I was just saying when I came in, I looked at the questions briefly, but I didn't write anything down because I think it's more authentic for me to be able to answer the questions for you. And it's not a pre-written script, so you know that somebody else wrote it for me to tell you what you want to hear. Bottom line here is really simple. Our nonprofits and, again, our businesses, like I've been saying from day one, we have to work with our Chamber of Commerce. We have to work with the community for our nonprofits. It's not about City Hall, it's about the community. City Hall is nothing without the people in the community. We've got people up here who have businesses, but do we tap into those businesses? Do we ask them for help? Do we ask them to give a hand? Do we ask them to take a leadership role? Cynthia was talking about the kids on the street. Have we asked them to take the kids off the street? And that's where it starts. It's not about necessarily about money. It's about them, the children, the adults in the community seeing us out there. We've made more of an impact as a group of people, instead of being nice. We've made more of an impact by walking the precincts. We've met people, they see us out there. And it's creating that, what we've all talked about, a community. And we've done that. And that's what we will continue to do, I think. And as mayor, that's what I'll continue to do. But I've said this from day one, I want everybody to use our businesses. We have to be business savvy and we have to be business friendly. And by being business savvy and business friendly, we're going to get money for the nonprofits because the businesses will work hand in hand with the nonprofits. It's kind of like going on a date. You don't know the person until you start dating them. And so we have to introduce the nonprofits to the large businesses and even the small businesses. I'm a very small business. I employ myself and I employ my clinical coordinator, and that's it. But we educate more than 1,700 to 2,000 EMTs across Southern California in a year. And it may not sound like a lot, but when you're relicensing every 2 years, that's a lot. And then every 2 years, we also do National Registry recertification. The point I'm making is you've got businesses that have special niches, and you find that niche and you work with them to help the nonprofits that have the same goals, same desires, and same understandings. So it's not so much about money, it's about everybody working hand in hand together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Good evening, everybody, and thank you to the Assistance League for putting this together and giving us the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Ashley Aiken, and like Ms. Ward, I'm also a native Anaheimer. I was lucky enough to grow up here, go to school here, and now I'm raising my 3 daughters in Anaheim. And it's a charmed life. I loved growing up in Anaheim, and what really motivated me to run for mayor is I want those same opportunities for my kids to grow up in a city that I love. And I think that while we have an amazing small town feel, we have an amazing city, we have some issues that we need to address. When we look at our homelessness crisis, when we look at the cost of housing that we're asking our recent high school and college graduates to pay for a small apartment, and when we look at the public safety needs of our community, they are problems that when we come together, we can solve. And I look forward to, as mayor, really tackling these issues head on. As far as the question about public service, this is something that is near and dear to my heart. And it's something that I really believe that I got from my parents. We were raised in a home where public service was not something that was talked about, it was something that was expected. And it was a life philosophy about trying to make the places around you, the environment around you better, not just for your own community, but really thinking about other people. And I've been very, very fortunate to be able to do that. First, I served our community as a federal prosecutor in both Los Angeles and Orange County, where I was able to put bank robbers, child predators, and narcotics dealers behind bars. And now I serve as a consumer protection attorney, where we represent victims against major corporations that have been wronged and try to help people find justice through the court system. And the law career has been something that has been a true blessing and a calling to me. And outside of my professional paid positions, I've always tried to use my law career to give back to the community. I do pro bono legal work for our homeless and near homeless veterans in Orange County with Veterans Legal Institute. I was the 2015 president of the Orange County Bar Association, where we started the Committee for Veterans and Military Families, access to resources in the Veterans Administration. In Anaheim, I served 2 terms and was chair of the Community Services Board, where we were connecting those that needed access to resources the most, our children, our seniors, our homebound seniors, making sure that they had the resources and that they were being partnered up with the nonprofits that could really solve some of the more pressing issues in our city. And also, as mentioned a little bit earlier, we were talking about, I'm very proud and active in both my parish and with the Girl Scouts of Orange County. I serve on their board development committee, as well as I am the troop leader for 3 Girl Scout troops. When I look at how do we solve this issue of getting some of our larger corporations to really embrace our nonprofits that to me are doing God's work on the ground, I think it's really, it's something that you can use the mayor's seat to lead by example. To go out and know that when you are the mayor of Anaheim and people see you in the community, they see you embracing nonprofits, they see you out there cleaning up the streets, in the parks, working with public safety to make sure that our streets are safe. That's the #1 thing I think the mayor's office can do. I'm very proud to be involved with the Assistance League, and I look forward to really talking to our larger corporations and saying, let's partner with our school districts with programs like AIM that partner our high school students and give them real job experience by the time they graduate. Let's partner with our Community Services Board and make sure that we're not cutting their funding, but they're increasing their funding to support groups out in the community. It's the most important thing that we can do, which is realize that as mayor, you work for the people, you work for the community, and your job is to always, how do you make Anaheim a better place for our residents?
We're all so good. I get all, for clump. It's like just seeing this kind of leadership from all four of them and seeing all of you here listening so intently, it makes me very happy. Okay, so sorry, moving on. So number 2, this board will start. How do you or would you support cultural arts in Anaheim?
I have personally been involved with nonprofits literally my entire adult life. I was running a Girl Scout troop before I had a child because my little sister-in-law wanted to be involved, and my mother-in-law wouldn't let her unless somebody she knew was running the Girl Scout troop. So I've always been involved, and I don't intend to ever stop. That's just my life. My kids grew up calling themselves the involuntary volunteers, and they can set up chairs faster than other human beings alive. But as mayor, the bully pulpit of that office is important to be able to get the word out, and because City Hall has an opportunity to be kind of a clearinghouse for these groups. For instance, I know the Assistance League does things with veterans. You might not know that there's a new veterans group that just moved into Anaheim called Patriots and Paws. Now, you might not know that, but City Hall does. So this is a chance that we could maybe identify at City Hall to trigger things so that when somebody pulls a permit, we go, oh, this is somebody that these guys over here might want to know about. Or shared office space. I know that, I think you're now using the office that used to be the Twins escrow. That can't be cheap space. So, can we provide office space for our nonprofits to help your dollars go a little bit farther? I've also been involved personally with what I think is a public-private partnership going the right direction, where early on, the Red Cross chapter house was going to be sold, and we got the city to pick up the tab for that. It took some arm twisting with Joel Fick and Terry Lowe and talking Pringle into it, but we got it, and we built Founders Park largely with a combination of grant money and a little bit of city funding, very little actually, from I don't think any general fund money, and a lot of private donations. A paint company that gave the paint and funneled it through the Anaheim Historical Society, where I was the president, and that was a chance for us to do something that cost the city so much less and gives back so much more. And we do the kids' 3rd grade field trip, their history field trip, which is run almost entirely with volunteers. And it's the one thing that I really desperately miss that I had to give up to run because there was just no way I had the time. But I'm usually spending my Thursdays and Friday mornings in a corset and a hoop skirt. And I miss those kids desperately, but that's all run with volunteers. And so there are so many opportunities for us to give back to the community and make the city's dollars go farther, make the nonprofits' dollars go farther, and connect with our community in a way that you don't get to unless you're truly volunteering. You can read about it in the newspaper, but unless you're putting in the time, you don't get it. And just Sunday morning, I was up way too early to bring donuts over to Anna Drive because they were setting up for a festival. And I thought, this is Anaheim. And so is the West Anaheim Barbecue, and so is the 4th of July event at Anaheim Hills. And these are events that are as different as they can be from each other. And they're all Anaheim, and they're all something that we should be proud of, because this is a much more diverse place than the place that I grew up in, where the Sampan restaurant on Brookhurst was the most exotic feature of West Anaheim. And now it's so much more interesting of a place, and I'm glad for that. And it's largely because we've welcomed people and we've put in the time to volunteer and make it a better place. When you look at the really good things that are happening in Anaheim, almost all of it comes back to volunteers giving their time and their passion. And so I'm going to make a plea, if you're not signed up to volunteer somewhere, there's something for you in Anaheim. I don't care what your interest is, there's something out there for you.
Thank you. I'm sitting between 2 Girl Scouts, but I just want you to know that I am a lifelong brownie. So the question is, what would I do to support the cultural arts? Real simple. We, with the Orange County Symphony on hiatus, I'm not sure what the details of that were, but we don't have one this year. And Anaheim can do that. I I have been really thinking hard how we can get like a jazz club in this town. This town really could use a good jazz club, and where we could locate it and where we could find it. And we just need to, again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. We need to sit down with the Chamber of Commerce. We need to sit down with the businesses. It's not Robert Williams, the mayor. It's not Ashley Aiken, the mayor. It's not Cynthia Ward, the mayor. It's the community. It's the community getting involved. It's the community working together. So as a community leader, we need to talk to the businesses. We need to get the businesses on board. We need to get everyone in this room on board. You know, we need to talk to our kids. I forgot the name of this person, but I was at the church camp this summer, and one of the AV guys from Cottonwood Church is 22 years old, and he's telling me about this great jazz musician. I'm like, who's that? And he's like, well, Google it. We have so much talent with our kids. We can learn from our kids. I found a new jazz artist that's on my Pandora now because spending time with the AV guy at church camp. You know, so that's how you do it. It's not about money from me, money from the city of Anaheim. It's about all of us working together. And it sounds like a broken record. It sounds repetitive, but as getting to where I was as a business owner, being a manager of ambulance companies, learning how to delegate things like that, that's what it's about. You get a Culture Arts Commission going, that's how the city starts. That's how the city supports it. But after that, it's up to you and me, because we will only be successful if each and every one of us supports the endeavors of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the city is unique as Anaheim. Really focusing on the cultural arts is something that I think we can improve on for a city of our size. I've been involved in the arts community for a very long time, both with Museo, downtown, my local theater in Anaheim Hills called the Chance Theater, as well as SCR and some of the other local arts organizations. And I'm also very proud as a Fair Board member that we installed, when I was chair, the largest public art installation in the state of California. And I'm a big believer in supporting both our public arts and in the cultural arts around the city. I think there's a lot of things that the city can do. One of the things that I would like to look at doing is really doing an overall, what they call an arts master plan. So when you look at what building is going to be, what type of development, what type of open space, what are we doing in our parks, making sure that we're not just talking about the building and the trees and the setbacks, but we're actually incorporating public art into that discussion. How do we beautify some of our neighborhoods that haven't had that attention? You know, we just had the wonderful mural painted downtown in partnership with our schools, encouraging that type of creativity amongst our students. There's a lot more that I think we can do to encourage arts both in our schools and in our community at large. I also think that when you look at programs, I was just speaking to the head of the Anaheim Ballet this weekend, and they put on every year for the Anaheim Elementary School District a performance of the Nutcracker. And what's so beautiful about it is that those kids would not, under any other circumstance, be exposed to ballet. Over the last couple of years, it's definitely changed since I was a kid. I don't think my kids know what a recorder is, let alone how to play one. But you know, we've taken a lot of arts and music out of our school, and we're not having any way to replace that. Our nonprofits are strapped. You know, they're not getting this type of exposure anywhere else. So I would really like to, again, support our nonprofits, making sure we're building the connections that if we are not going to work with our school districts and find the funding to put arts and music and dance back in our schools, that we're making sure that we're partnering with those in our community like the Chance Theater and like the Anaheim Ballet, that we're doing programs specifically for them. I'm very involved with Chapman University, and one of the beautiful things that we started doing with the high school and junior highs in Anaheim is getting the buses and taking them to the Hilbert Museum that's on the grounds of Chapman University. And it's so beautiful. I love to go with them and walk in, and they've never been in a museum before. And they ask me, the first questions they ask is, are we allowed to talk? Yes, you're allowed to talk. You're allowed to laugh. You're allowed to express. You're allowed to share with each other what you like and what you don't like. If you see something hanging on the wall and you think it's terrible, you're allowed to express that. We want to give our children these opportunities. We want to make sure that they're exposed to this beautiful part of our society. And as one of my friends that works at Chance Theater says, he always says, an artist is a child that survived.
Thank you for asking this question. I have been a long-time supporter of the cultural arts and arts education in Anaheim and arts fundraising efforts. I remember the early 2004-2005 time when the Chance Theater was struggling with their fundraising. My family has opened up the doors to have them raise a lot of funds for their culture and promote cultural arts in Anaheim. I'm also the founding member of Museo when it first started. And we put a lot of effort to make sure we promote that. And I'm also a member of the Anaheim Performing Arts Center Foundation Advisory Council to support the organization efforts to bring world-class performing arts center in Anaheim and its launch. Education space and platform for new and existing community arts initiatives. Also, I've been supporting for Anaheim Ballet ever since I remember when I was on city council 2004 to 2012. As a mayor, I'll continue to advocate for a strong cultural arts in Anaheim.
Thank you. So I would love to continue to talk about the arts. It's my favorite topic, but we have to move into some of our challenges now. So starting with you, sir, we will start with how will you approach the homeless situation? I know it's 3 minutes. It's a big topic, but do your best.
It really isn't that big of a subject. It seems like it because we make it a big deal, but I think we're on the right track. I think the first thing we do, and again, if you've been to all of these forums, I'm a broken record, but we register all the homeless residents. If they want to go home, we help them go home, but we get them in the system. We get them in the database where we can get them medical treatment, we get them care. I'm proud of what our governor's done. Hopefully we're gonna be able to get some more psychiatric care now for our homeless residents. And that will help a lot too, because if you take care of the root problem, then maybe we can get the homeless residents back where they belong. But we have to get them off the street. One of the biggest things with the registration process is you've got a lot of people out there running a scam. They're not homeless. They're making more money on the streets panhandling than working real jobs. So if you look at our plan, one of our plan is, if you want to panhandle, that's great. We're going to charge you an exorbitant amount of money to get a business license in the city of Anaheim. And then you can panhandle all you want. But the city of Anaheim is going to get their cut for it. And that's in our plan. It sounds ridiculous, but hopefully we'll cut down on the panhandling issue. Hopefully we'll cut down on the people mugging you in the streets who aren't really homeless, but just want money. I live at the Starbucks over by City Hall. And at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, that is the worst place in Anaheim to be because there's just an influx of homeless residents. And the police don't look at trespassing, being verbally abusive to people as a high priority crime. So by the time you get there, they're gone. But when you have homeless people throwing urine on you, feces on you, and things like that, it becomes an issue and a concern. So when I tell you it's not that big of a deal, it's not if we get them taken care of and get them the treatment they rightfully need and rightfully deserve. I am not as well versed as my colleagues are here, but we've got to take care of our veterans who are homeless. It's a simple fact of the matter. We have to do what the federal government's not doing, and we have to take care of our homeless veterans. And I can't speak as an expert on it because I'm not. However, as your mayor, you hire people that are smarter than you. It's not about I, it's about us. It's not about I, it's about we. It's what we can do. And, as much as I want to be nice, we have to understand that it's not about I. It's not an I thing. It's not about moving up to the next step in the ladder. It's not about getting another notch in your political resume. It's about taking care of the people in the city of Anaheim. And when you have that attitude about I, and not we, or us, that's when they get lost. And that's what's happened so far. It's not been about them, it's been about us and what we can do for ourselves. And that's why we have a problem with our homeless residents, because no one's taking the time to realize that they too are people. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I think what's so hard for a lot of Anaheim residents to understand about this problem, and is what's so frustrating,
to a lot of people in their neighborhoods is that they feel like nothing is getting done and nothing's getting better. And I sympathize with that. I have, I'm using the I word because it was me. I got involved in this issue about 2014 when I was about to become president of the Bar Association, where we had a small, about 35 to 40 people that started congregating and living outside our county courthouse. Now that is where we ask all of you fine residents to come and report for jury duty. It's where our judges go to work every day, our court reporters, our county officials. And so they asked as a bar association, could we come together and try to figure out if there is anything we can do through the legal system to help some people out. And at the beginning, I can tell you for the 40 people that were out there, 35 to 40 people, there were 40 different reasons why they were homeless. We had a large amount of vets that through PTSD, through a lack of connectivity to the Veterans Administration, were not getting the services they needed. We had people that had severe mental health issues that no matter what type of counseling are not going to probably return to be productive members of society. And then we have a serious opioid epidemic that has just devastated all families from all walks of life. And I realized early on that the one thing that we cannot do is create a society where it's us and them. And it's those people this, and it's those people that, and it's get those people out of my city. Those people served our country. Those people are our mothers, they're fathers, they're our brothers, and they're our sisters. But what do we do now, knowing that we have this issue out there? And I agree with Robert, it's not a complex issue to solve, but what it takes is somebody that understands the root causes of homelessness and actually has the political will to solve the problem. I looked at, and I don't mean to overspeak, and I know they'll correct me, but I was probably spent more time on the Santa Ana riverbed doing community service work with faith groups, nonprofit groups, and with my legal groups than anyone else running for mayor. And I learned a lot of things. And that was, without a plan, what's happening today was going to happen. You can't just move people around. We went in, we cleared the Santa Ana riverbed, and exactly what we thought was going to happen did happen. They're in our parks. They're sleeping in front of our businesses. They're in every bus stop. I drive down Magnolia Avenue every single day, and there are people now just living on the sidewalks. And it's because we cannot just kick the can down the road. We have to actually come up with reasonable solutions. And it's called permanent supportive housing. The city has 2 projects going forward right now that we're waiting to get memos of understanding with, the Salvation Army and Bill Terramima's property. And when we open up those permanent supportive shelter beds, and we move people into those shelters, we get them wraparound services with the county, we get them the sobriety classes, the job training, the connectivity to the Veterans Administration. If we get them the services they need, we can expect that they are going to transition back into our society, and we can help them. But demonizing them, blaming each other for it, acting like we're better than everybody else is not going to help them. I'm a big believer, and we need to help people, and we can do it. We know the county has the resources. We know the city has limited resources, but we can work with the county. We can get people permanent supportive housing. We can get them housed. Then we can go back, and those that don't want to be housed, we can enforce the laws that are already on the books. We can clean up our parks, and we can restore the beauties, because at the end of the day, our parks, our sidewalks, our open space are for children and for barbecues. They're not for living by homeless people, because our political leaders have failed us.
Homeless issue is not a local issue, it's a regional issue. It's the county issues. We are taking the majority of the homeless right here in Orange County. Other cities are not sharing their part. You look at the riverbed and they start cleaning up. What did we find? 14,000 needles. If we had the right leadership in Anaheim, this will not be where we are today in homeless. I've been walking in the neighborhood. I've been going to the parks. I'm watching that our people, our residents cannot use the parks, cannot use the sidewalks. It is the real issue. But our hands are tied. Judge Carter has made it that unless you have enough shelters, you cannot do the anti-camping law in our city. That issue is going to be resolved very soon, hoping we will have more than 400 beds available by the end of the year. After that, people who need help, we are going to provide the help. People who's going to basically say, I don't need the help of the city. Guess what? It's about time that we take some action, but with compassion. We will provide the help what they need. But at the same time, if this problem has not been resolved easily, there's another issue coming right behind us, is the needle exchange program. And that needle exchange program I talked about 3 months ago when the state was coming in saying Anaheim is identified to have one of these needle exchange programs to be protected, to be have right here in Anaheim. I stood up and said, not in my city. As a mayor, you will see me to be committed to developing a strong, compassionate solution to growing homeless problem. It's not going to be easy, but it could be resolved, but we need the leadership, and the right people, and we can find a solution, and it could be eliminated in a very short period of time, and I'll be there with you. Thank you.
With all due respect to my colleague up here, this is not a regional issue, this is a national issue. What is a regional issue is the fact that Sheriff Sandra Hutchins had her deputies push the homeless along the riverbed, starting down in South County where more affluent communities were complaining, push them all up into the Anaheim section of the riverbed so that the entire county's homeless population became Anaheim's crisis. So when the county closed the riverbed without a real plan, they all ended up in Anaheim. And now we're trying to deal with it, and we've lost our public spaces because of it. And Sandra Hutchins should be ashamed of herself for allowing this to take place, because this isn't something that just happened overnight. This has been building for decades, including past administrations of city council that never proposed a solution back when this was manageable. So now it's so out of hand, sometimes we feel like we're never going to get on top of it. We will. It's going to take the political will to actually get on top of a problem that others allowed to get out of hand. Steve Jobs says you don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. You hire smart people so they can tell you what to do. So we need to task staff with finding the best and the brightest out there for solutions and tell them, we will find the money. You go find the solution, tell us what it's going to take. It's our job to find the money. Back in 2015, back when I was a political blogger with no authority at all, I spent months looking into the various types of homelessness and what causes it and how to address it. And I wrote a lengthy article that was printed online, and I should post it to my website because I'm proud of it. And a hate blogger has actually picked up bits and pieces and cherry picked from that to make it sound like something it wasn't. And some have created mail out of those misquotes that I greatly resent and I am owed an apology for. But we're not going to get into that tonight because we're going to be nice. As far as the needle exchange, that is a disaster. 20 needles for every dirty one turned back in is an invitation to leave 19 in our community. I have opposed it publicly. I've been opposing it publicly from long before others. And again, I am owed an apology for being misquoted there as well. Ultimately, as leaders, we're not experts on homelessness. So if we try and come up with solutions, you're going to end up with something like the Arctic, which is non-experts doing things that need experts. And I don't want the Arctic of homelessness, but we will find a solution.
Okay, moving on to, do you support charter schools in Anaheim?
If you raise the, speak up on.
Sorry, we're doing, can you support, or do you support charter schools in Anaheim?
So this is I think such an interesting question because I went to El Rancho Middle School And I remember coming back from college one year, and all of a sudden it was El Rancho Charter School. And so I got a good education in exactly what that means. And this, like any other issue, is not a black and white issue. There are good charter schools operating in Anaheim, like my junior high, El Rancho Middle School, and Goals Academy. We've seen them thrive. We've seen them succeed. But we also have to be aware of for-profit charters, and that's what I'm against. The reason that El Rancho Charter School works is because they have accountability and transparency with the school district's dollars, and it is a partnership between teachers, parents, school district representatives, and their business manager. You know where your tax dollars are going, you know what they're being spent on, and you as a parent are working with the teachers and the school district to set priorities and goals for your school. And I think that's a model that we can get behind. They take care of their teachers, they hire credentialed teachers, the same as any other public school. And so you see public schools like that, public charter schools thriving. But we also have seen, not yet in Anaheim, but the movement is coming, to move to what happened in Los Angeles, which is for-profit charter schools. And these do not let you know where your tax dollars are going. They're not competitive public bid contracts when it comes to buying desks and books and school supplies. They don't report to anybody. The school districts, just to simplify it, write them a check, and then they spend it how they want. And that makes me really nervous. I'm a big believer in protecting our tax dollars. And the best way to do that is having the public know, opening up the hood, looking at the engine and knowing where all of our tax dollars are going, what they're being spent on, and making sure that they're spent in our classrooms and for our children. So I think it is a case-by-case basis until we fix this at a statewide level. I know there's legislation going into Sacramento about really trying to reframe this whole system and getting rid of for-profit charters. But to the extent that any school wants to open in Anaheim and they want to make a profit on the backs of our children, I would be opposed to that type of model.
Come back around to the other end.
Okay. Where do you think our public schools of California is in the entire United States? We probably are the last one, right? Our education, the kids are suffering the education. Our children are our future. I support the view that California needs an integrated, transparent education system that allows parents, the public, educators, and policymakers to access useful information about our schools. Decision-making should not be left solely on bureaucrats, policymakers. Parents should have a choice in policymaking how the system should be changed to better educate our children, which includes the charter school approach. I support an open door policy that allows parents to bring their voices forward on educational choices. We must provide our children with an educational experience that better prepares for our workforce in the future for all of our kids. Thank you.
We live pretty close to Goals Academy, and you'd be hard pressed to find a bigger cheerleader for that entity. I absolutely love that school. And yet I also recognize we have some other schools that are challenged. They're not necessarily meeting all the needs of our kids. And unfortunately, one of the answers that have been triggered is the for-profit school program. And it's got me terrified. Palm Lane School was essentially taken over by a for-profit corporation. And the dirty little secret is that the guys that are making a ton of money on this are targeting minority schools because they get a lot of federal funding. They get federal funding for free lunches and for how many kids speak English as a second language, how many live below the poverty line. And so the schools that are most desperately in need of help are the ones that are being preyed upon by those who are just looking to make a profit. And the once conservative Lincoln Club has members that are behind this movement. And that's why you see them backing politicians that lend their names to the for-profit charter movement. because it's a symbiotic relationship for them. And these politicians say, yeah, go charter schools, the schools are failing. And then these guys are swooping in and making a ton of money on these kids who don't have the opportunity to fight back. And their parents are working 2 and 3 jobs and aren't engaged enough to fight back. And they make the perfect victims, and we need to speak on their behalf. So I love schools like parent-led charter schools like Goals Academy. You won't find a finer institution. They've actually got a waiting list. They need a bigger campus. They actually need a campus that they don't have to worry about needles coming over from La Palma Park as well. But the for-profit charter system should be absolutely condemned. And anybody that is making money on the backs of these kids that have no voice, I'm not gonna say it, but it disgusts me. It disgusts me. And the Lincoln Club has completely imploded upon itself because of this one particular issue.
The simple answer is yes. The more broad spectrum answer is there have to be guidelines and regulations. Competition in any facet is a positive thing in our society. So if it's a for-profit charter school, if it's a parent-run charter school, if it's a nonprofit charter school, if it's a church-run charter school, we need the competition for the public schools to bring the public schools up to a level of what we expect our children to get. I support the charter school aspect simply because as a role model, buying school supplies for my kids, but I'm going to pick on them right now, but the Fullerton La Mirada School District, my girls are at Sonora, they're getting they got a new theater, which is smaller than this room, so I don't understand what new theater meant. They're getting a new auditorium, they're getting a new, all these athletic venues, but what are they doing for the students in the classroom? And so when we look at, again, what I know, the Fullerton La Mirada School District, apparently they don't understand that for the students to be successful on the field, they have to be successful in the classroom. So we need to have direct competition. We need to make sure that our students across the board are getting a good education. We need my girls like the immersion program. They love the immersion program. I have a 12-year-old and she started in the immersion program. She's like, I'll be bilingual by the time I graduate, Father. I'm like, that's awesome. That's what you want, then let's give it to you. So we get into these political debates about what's best for the kids, but we don't take the time to ask the kids what they want. And when you have charter schools, you give the parents and the students a little more authority and a little more flexibility in their education. I have sat here for what, 6 months listening to you? And Ashley is so into her kids. Don't you think that we should let her put her kids in a charter school where she can make the decisions on the education her kids are getting versus putting them in public school where the money goes to an athletic venue? And maybe if she has special needs kids, they don't get what they need. But when you have a charter school, you can take care of the special needs kids. So when you ask the question, should we have charter schools? Yes. Why? For competition. The competition will make the public schools better. And then when you have competition, our students will be the best. Harry said he's been in the United States for 44 years. And for this whole time, all he does is bash the United States and our educational system now. Harry, your girls went to this educational system. So if it's so bad, why do they use it? And that's the point. You've got parents saying enough about this, enough about that. What are they doing to make it better?
So our next question is, where do you stand regarding the minimum wage increase?
I oppose Measure L, that increase the minimum wage. Organized labor is driving this initiative to implement the highest minimum wage in the country. As a small business owner, it is my view that this is an issue that should have been negotiated between the bargaining table and between the businesses and the labor, not at the ballot box. I'm absolutely opposed to Measure L. Thank you.
I understand what Measure L was trying to do, but I've got huge issues with the way that it is written. It's a poorly written law, unfortunately, because when a business should be a free exchange of labor for pay. And if you're agreeing to work for X dollars and an employer is agreeing that your work is worth that, that's how America works. Now, if your business plan depends on the taxpayers of America giving your employees food stamps and subsidized housing and free lunches for the kids, because in a civil society, we don't let people go hungry, and you're banking on that as part of your business plan, now I've got a problem with your company. Because you don't have to pay your people whatever you want and expect us to pick up the tab between what you're paying them and what they need to survive. And that's just an environmental community thing. And that was actually addressed in the resort back in the 1990s in the original environmental documents as Disney was expanding. And it was documented that Disney's housekeepers were primary wage earners. They were not making enough to survive. There was definitely a negative impact to the community. Disney was supposed to put in 500 units of affordable housing. They were supposed to put in a childcare center. There were all kinds of things to mitigate the damage to our community. Leaders then just let them kind of shove it into a drawer and never saw daylight. So this is a great opportunity for us to address it. Unfortunately, Measure L misses badly. I was at the union meeting where they rolled that out, and I watched the experts say it takes $20 to $23 an hour to survive in Orange County, and then they rolled out this new plan to get $15 to $18 an hour for their employees, and they called that a living wage. You don't get to call that a living wage when your own experts show they're not going to be making enough to live on, and what they will do is make enough to no longer qualify for food stamps and subsidized housing. And a lot of people kind of stuck in the middle, that I think there's going to be some consequences for that we haven't thought through. Unfortunately, when I was quoted by the newspaper wanting to know why they hadn't asked for what their own experts said was a living wage in order to call it a living wage, that's been mischaracterized, claiming that I want a bunch of janitors to make $20 an hour as entry-level work. And I know in an open market that doesn't happen. So it's unfortunate that that's what this campaign has come down to, is misquoting one another because some people just don't have a plan. So all they can do is bash others.
Simple answer on the minimum wage is, no. The state of California has a plan to raise the minimum wage, and at the state level, we have a plan. I have been yelled at, screamed at, not doors closed in my face when I asked about this. I'm sorry, I am a 52-year-old male. I was raised by parents that at 16, every single one of us was kicked out of the house to get a job for the summer. I did that with my girls this summer. Every single one of my girls, who are all seniors, the 5 were seniors this year, all were made to get jobs. And I got the whining, but father, I'll pay for your prom, I'll pay for this, I'll pay for that, but you need to get a job. You need to understand the value of a dollar. Bottom line here is, when I was driving around this morning to find this location, I passed by the bus depot that says free jobs. There are jobs all over the city of Anaheim. There are jobs all over the state of California. There are jobs all over the United States. You don't have to work somewhere where you're not getting paid what you think you should be paid or what you deserve to be paid. It is not my responsibility as a taxpayer and as a business owner to support people that don't want to work. Every single one of us in this room works for a living. Every single one of us in this room has earned what we have. You've got a car you make payments on, you've got insurance to pay for that car, you've got a house, you pay insurance on the house. I mean, everything costs us money. So now, if we give someone who doesn't have the same desire, the same goals that we have, let's hypothetically say that Harry actually pays his employees a living wage. So Harry pays his employees a living wage, but they're undereducated and they don't know what to do with the money. So they're not gonna properly spend the money, and they're gonna use it for the same things they're using it now, and they're gonna be in the same situation. And then in 6 months, are they gonna ask us for $25 and then $30? If you aren't taught the value of a dollar, it doesn't matter how much we pay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go at this one alone. I'm supportive of Measure L. And I think before I get into my explanation why, we need to clear up some facts here, because some people have a very complicated relationship with the truth. This is not going to be the biggest minimum wage in the country. Seattle already does this, Los Angeles already does this. It's going to $15 an hour, if it passes, $15 an hour in January. And it also doesn't apply to everyone that owns a small business. It was never intended to apply to your local dry cleaner, to your local cookie store, to the local pizza parlor. What it was intended to do is address the inequity that goes on when you have a city council that is wholly controlled by the resort district. Now, I believe in free enterprise. I'm not a fan of government interference determining economic outcomes, but that's not the city that Anaheim is, and it hasn't been for decades. Our city gives massive amounts of tax subsidies to the resort district without asking anything in return. So now we're in a position where we have people that are working not one job, not two jobs, sometimes 3 jobs for $11, $12 an hour, and they're not able to make ends meet, because with all that last tax money that we're not getting and all these subsidies that we intend to give away, that's our money for affordable housing. That's our money for our safety net programs. That's our money for our food stamps. That's our money for their health care. So don't be fooled. You're already paying for people's food. You're already paying for their health care. You're already paying for their housing. But you know who's not paying for it? The richest corporations in this city. And that just seems fundamentally unfair to me and to the residents and the taxpayers of Anaheim. I think that we can do better. And as far as I know, people have said, and I don't think they mean it to be derogatory, but we need to stop insulting the dignity of a day's work. There is nothing wrong with being a painter. And there is nothing wrong with being a janitor. And there's nothing wrong with being a housekeeper. And to say that they could just go get another job at McDonald's and act like McDonald's is paying $75 an hour is ridiculous. We need to appreciate people that are doing what we ask them to do as a society, which is go out, get a full-time job, pay their taxes, be active in their children's schools and their children's baseball teams. They're doing everything right. And now we have an opportunity to do right by them.
Our next question is, do you think the local police should be responsible for immigration control? And what about dreamers? And that starts with you.
Our local police department performs miracles, given that we have cops per capita on a level of Stockton, which is a city that's functionally bankrupt. And yet the latest FBI reports show that we're one of the safest cities for our size in America. We do not need to burden them by making them immigration officers. The feds have plenty of funding to do that, and they need to do their own jobs. On the other hand, I don't want to get in their way. The federal government has the right and the responsibility to decide who is going to come into this country and who will not, because not everyone who wants to be here has the best interests of our society at heart. And we know that people are trying to get across the borders that want to harm us. So we need that control of the borders. We don't need to use local police to do that. And I very much resent the state of California telling the federal government that we're going to get in the way of their jobs. I would like to see us post publicly everybody that is in police custody and when they are going to be released. So when they come out, they can have the loving arms of a wife or a girlfriend or whoever to pick them up, or the handcuffs of a federal immigration officer that's been looking for them. But I don't want our local jail incarcerating them longer than they've served their time, because then we take on the liability and the expense of that. And I don't want our local law enforcement deputized as federal agents. And I don't care if it's income tax or immigration or anything that the federal government is supposed to be doing. They have the authority to do it. Our local police are supposed to be keeping us safe. And we also know when local police start enforcing immigration, people stop talking. And now you don't get people reporting crime. You don't get people reporting having witnessed a crime. And then that mugging goes unsolved, that rape goes unsolved because people won't step up. We just had a story in the local newspaper that a girl was molested. The parents did what was right and reported it, and now it looks like the dad is going to be deported, and the dad did nothing wrong. So that's what happens when we cross that line. That line. We need a lot more help with our immigration system, because when you have too many people in a country that are fighting for resources, now you've got people that are competing with my kids for an apartment and a spot in a local college that haven't been paying taxes all this time, but our local police aren't the way to do it.
Cynthia, I love you, but you're scaring me right now. Because we've done that with the Japanese, we've done that with the colored people, we've done that with all kinds of people. That wasn't right. But you're advocating that again. Should the local police be responsible for immigration control? No. What about the Dreamers? What about the Dreamers? That's kind of vague. Should we support the Dreamers? Yes, we should support the Dreamers. They didn't bring themselves to this country. Mom and Dad did. The bottom line here is real simple. As a society, our true colors are coming out. I've got a lawyer next to me that takes care of these problems. I'm sure she's appalled by what our society is doing. The bottom line, though, is that we have to welcome everybody in our society. That's what it's all about. And to this day, we say that we're an open, free, loving society, and we're not. Anaheim's not. I mean, I've had dogs let out at me. I've had people, there's all kinds of things that you would not believe, because you may not think that way, but other people do. So our police are supposed to be our friends, take care of us, keep us safe. So immigration control for the police is definitely a no-no, because one thing that Cynthia said that I agree 100% is, if we put them on immigration control, it takes away from their abilities to take care of the local issues, the local problems of the local people. Our Dreamers, we need to give them everything that we can, everything we have, because it's the children of today that are tomorrow's future. I think Ashley made the comment last time we all got together. Those are your future leaders right there. Anaheim is changing, the face of Anaheim is changing, and it's those Dreamers that are going to be your city council members. It's those Dreamers that are going to be your mayors. And if we don't assist them, support them, and give them what they need, God help the city of Anaheim.
Yeah, I feel that this is a complicated issue, because it's one that it's like the political red meat that politicians use to grandstand, when in all reality, cities don't have the ability to fix federal immigration law. Anaheim does not have the ability to close our borders. Anaheim certainly doesn't have the bandwidth to go and round up every single person that has an illegal immigration status in the city of Anaheim, and nor should we. When I was in the prosecutor's office, I did a lot of immigration cases. I'm very familiar with what you can and can't do. And my concern when this law was passed was, how does that hamstring my ability to do immigration cases involving violent crimes? And the reason that they had, I believe almost every sheriff's department was able to sign off on this, is because our police force right now retains the right that if somebody has a warrant out for them for a violent crime or a felony, or if someone is caught committing a felony, you absolutely have the right to put that person in jail. Not because of their immigration status, but because they're a crook. And I think that's the big difference. We don't have the bandwidth to go and arrest every single person that has a broken taillight that also happens to be an illegal immigrant. And again, why would we? Do you want people not walking their kids to school because they're afraid of their own police force? And I know you both hit on this. Do you want people not going to church anymore because they're afraid of those that are supposed to protect and serve? It's not fair to our Anaheim police officers. When someone starts evading arrest and taking off in a cop car, they don't know if it's because that person's a violent criminal or because that person's scared to be separated from their family. So you're going to have less people that are going to be witnesses to crimes. You're going to have less victims reporting crimes. And you're going to really just strike fear into what makes Anaheim so great, and that is our diverse immigrant community that is the backbone of our small business community. They are the most involved families in our schools and in our neighborhoods. And so we shouldn't enact and support any type of policy that is aimed at dividing families. And any kind of policy that separates families, that disrupts the family unit, and that takes children away from their parents, I just don't think is something that's not an Anaheim value. Thank you.
I'm firmly against illegal immigration and oppose sanctuary policies. As someone that immigrated legally to this country in my teens, I feel very strongly about immigrants taking the legal steps to immigration in this country. I'm also in full support of ICE agents working in coordination with the Anaheim Police Department in our jail. I was in support of coordination during the 8 years that I served as an Anaheim City Council member. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, where do you stand regarding the tax breaks to hotels and/or Angel Stadium? No, that's another big one. Another big one again. Yes.
I think the city of Anaheim owns Angel Stadium, so that's a different, of course, a different color. It's not a black and white, answer. There's no black and white answer. It's not yes or no. Each and every business entity has to be looked at, and each deal has to be looked at as each deal. I think the concern was that blanket deals were made, and that those blanket deals covered 2-3 different organizations instead of each organization. If you have a business plan, you come in with that business plan, and you're saying, help me now so I can help you later, I don't see a problem with that. And that's pretty much in the most simplistic terms what a subsidy does. It's like, you give it to me now, I'll give it back to you later. And that's what we need to do. I think it's important to do that. It's what I was saying from day one, that we need to be business friendly. We need to make sure that we work with our businesses. I'm not saying give away the baby with the bathwater, but what I am saying is work with each other. I'm sure that if I had a business that the city of Anaheim needed, the city of Anaheim would invest in my business so it would grow. Once my business grows to a certain level, then the city of Anaheim would expect, and rightfully so, that I start giving back. What happens is I forget that I shook their hand, and I forget I made a deal with them, and I start doing things on my own. And that's where we get into problems. So it's not that there are bad people, bad companies, and bad organizations. There are bad deals. And those bad deals are magnified when you have bad people running the businesses and the corporations. But it's the right hand and the left hand working together. Subsidies are an important part of not only any business community, but any city, any county, any state, and any federal government working. We do it all the time. We do it everywhere. We just need to understand how to do it right. I think that Cynthia has said this numerous times. You need to get the right people making the right deals. Okay, I am not 100% business savvy, so you know what? You bring in people who know what they're doing, and they look at the things. As a mayor, I don't make these decisions, but I can guide, I can direct, and I can help make the right policy change that need to be done. But the bottom line here is we need these. It makes our community stronger, and it gives us better relationships with the people and the businesses in our community.
I think this is gonna be, to me, and when you go, door to door talking to neighborhoods and your neighbors, this is kind of the fundamental line in the sand between the candidates that are running for mayor. Because I'm fundamentally against the taxpayer subsidy deals that have been going on for decades, because they don't make financial sense for the residents and the taxpayers of Anaheim. For instance, the recent deals that were canceled by the Disneyland Corporation. That you're looking at mortgaging Anaheim's future because we were going to give them $267 million in future revenue. I mean, just think about what we could do with that. Now, I don't believe that when we look at the resort area and some of the very wealthy hotel developers that we should in any way create a business climate that is unfriendly, that is retribution, that is personally targeted towards them. We want them to grow. We want them to thrive. We want more people. We had 27.5 million people that came to Anaheim last year in Orange County, particularly because of our resort district. We want to encourage that. But when it comes to who is best able to pay for new development projects and new hotels, is it our general fund, or is it a corporation that made $4.4 billion in profit in the last quarter of last year alone? It doesn't make financial sense. And I don't fault them for doing what they're doing. I mean, as angry as it makes me that they're pouring over $2 million into a local city council race, it makes good business sense. $2 million is a lot less than $267 million. But we have to make sure as residents that we don't let our voice get diluted and we don't let our votes get diluted, because people are trying to buy and pay for mayors and city council members that are only going to be focused on one part of the city. Anaheim is an amazing place because of our neighborhoods and because of the residents that have been here and the families that have been here for generations. And I don't like to see our neighborhoods and our sidewalks cracking and our streetlights not working, and then us having to tell our neighborhoods that we can't afford to do something because we've focused solely on the resort district. And the Angels deal is another good example. I mean, there is somebody running for mayor that not only voted for a $158 million subsidy for the Garden Walk project, but this same person supported giving Artie Moreno a 66-year lease for the Angel Stadium property for $1 a year. Now, we know right now that the Angels have opted out of their lease, which means we have an unencumbered city asset that is probably worth close to $1 billion. And we have this is how stark this choice is. We can go forward and do something like we're doing with Anaheim Arena Management and the Ducks, where we are partners in development. We are going to be sharing in that revenue stream. We are going to be successful partners because that's our stadium and it's our land, but it's their vision to develop it. Or we can do what Mr. Sidhu wanted to do, which is just give the parking lot away for $1 a year for 66 years, even though the team was only required to be here through 2028. It's bad negotiating, it's bad business deals, and while it might make your friends rich, it's not helping the taxpayers of Anaheim, and we have a fiduciary duty to negotiate deals that are in the interest of our residents and our neighborhoods.
Anaheim. Which are the pillars what makes Anaheim? Resort area, Honda Center, Angel Stadium, Convention Center. If you take all those out of pictures today, where do you think Anaheim will be? We are the 10th largest city in California, #1 in Orange County. If you take all those things out of the equation, where do you think Anaheim will be? We will be at the bottom of everything. Over the years, public-private partnership had taken many different forms in Anaheim, had contributed to the development of a number of important projects, including resort area, Honda Center, Angel Stadium, and Convention Center. If We did not make the partnership. You, all of you residents, will not be paying 25% less utilities rate than anywhere in Southern California. Same thing with water. These are the decisions made at the very early age that it is a public-private partnership that works, and it works well. As a mayor, I remain open to potential public-private partnership opportunity that will benefit our community at large. Thank you.
With all due respect to Mr. Sadhu, our public utility was founded in 1895. So it's got nothing whatsoever to do with these big corporations. We pay low rates because we own our own nonprofit utility, and they can only charge what it costs to deliver. But I guess that's what a good mayor might know. It is not anti-business to be pro-neighborhood. We have invested over and over and over again, and it is time to see the return on our investment. We've been letting the team play in our stadium, and I say our stadium. We've been paying every penny of the bond issues, and when we run out of bond money, we renew it and spend some more. Since the year I was born during Angels baseball's first season in that stadium. I'm here to tell you that was not yesterday. My knees can tell you it was not yesterday. When do we get a return on our investment? A backroom deal was made to develop that area of 150 acres and offered to Artie Moreno for $1 a year, and it benefited developers, and it was gonna cut us out of the deal for $1 a year. As far as Disney, back in the 1990s, we invested $500 million that will cost us $1.5 billion with a B dollars to repay over a 40-year period, in order to build the infrastructure that let Disney expand. And we did it willingly. I'm the only person I've ever met that's actually read every page of every one of those documents, the specific plan, the environmental documents, that develop all of it. I'd have signed it myself if I was in city council back then. It made sense. But today is when we're supposed to be reaping the rewards of that. Now it's starting to generate the money for the hotels around Disney, because we don't actually make the tax dollars on Disney property, in case you didn't know that. But the businesses around Disney are starting to generate that additional tax money, and especially now with Star Wars Land coming online, we're gonna have even more visitors, and they're giving away our return on investment. The money we've been holding off on the neighborhoods that are dying. These people are holding on, they're going without vacations to make sure that their houses get painted because they have such pride in their neighborhoods. And we are letting them down in the public space by not taking care of the streets and the sidewalks and the curbs and maintaining their quality of life and their property values. Because we kept pumping money into the resort, being told we'd get the payoff, we'd get the payoff. Well, where's our payoff? Well, our last city council members gave it away to their friends. And now Disney wants to buy another mayor and city council. And this is where we have to draw the line and recoup our losses.
So those are some of the questions. I'm now going to move to, in the essence of time, I think what we'll do is just do 2 questions from the audience. And the last one is perfect for the final question. So we're going to start with, I believe, Glenda. Sorry, Glenda, I can't read your handwriting. Laura, maybe? How important do you feel the library system is to the city, and how do you propose to increase money to the library? Sorry. Yeah.
Well, as the mother of 3 little girls, I can tell you I am very appreciative of our Anaheim library system. They have great programs that I was always able to take my kids to, whether they're reading programs, whether they had the computer games that we didn't have at home, and just an access to, the world of imagination. And I'm sure most of us that raised our kids in Anaheim, have that love for the Anaheim library system. But what I always worry about is I got kind of re-engaged with the city when I had 2 kids under 3 at home. And granted, there was a lot of financial crises going on nationwide, But the first things that got cut in Anaheim were the library services, the classes at our community centers, like basic services that serve our families. And then there was talk by somebody on the city council to privatize our libraries and fire all of our city employees that have been with our public libraries for years. And I remember going to Canyon Hills Library, and I mean, they were devastated. And so I think if we don't prioritize the basic services that cities should do, streets, sidewalks, libraries, those type of important community benefits, it's going to be a real detriment to our quality of life. And so anything that we can do, whether it's supporting the nonprofits and the Friends of the Libraries that try to get more resources to our libraries, to just making sure we protect them when it comes time to make tough budget decisions. I mean, budgets are a statement of our priorities. And if libraries are the first things to go, what does that say about those that we elected at the time? I think we need to do everything we can to support the system and support the wonderful city employees that work at those libraries.
When I was there for 8 years, Anaheim was one of the most important factor that we need to keep the doors open. These libraries are the most important. That gives you knowledge for your kids. And I know today the technology has taken over a lot of the efforts and not many people are going to the libraries, but I still support more libraries. More people should go to the libraries to educate their kids. Thank you.
It's interesting to hear that, since during that time period, we watched that same city council cut library services to the bone. But they went ahead and left public works in place. In fact, I think they increased public works, because public works was working on the streetcar and the high-speed rail and all the sexy projects that Kurt Pringle wanted done. And everybody who wanted Kurt Pringle's approval went along with them. They sucked through our reserves until when Mayor Tate took office in 2010, we were nearly bankrupt. So I'm really surprised to hear that support. I am a library nut because I volunteer with Founders Park as, you know, the local history lady, and that's run by our library department. Believe it or not, it's this really neat partnership between city parks and the city library. So I see the resource that these librarians are, and they are some of the sharpest, smartest people on earth. You want to know anything, you ask a librarian. And too often they are the first ones cut. They get paid less than so many more of our other employees. Their budgets are the first cut. They do more with less than any other department. So before the next downturn, and we ask them to take another cut, we need to look at pension reform. We need to make sure that the public employee unions that are spending so much money on this election understand that they need to pay the employee share of their pensions before we will cut other departments. I'm the one mayoral candidate that actually has experience negotiating a union contract and getting pension reform out of a unionized workforce with a public agency, and the one mayoral candidate that actually leads an agency with no unfunded pension liability. It can be done, and we need to do that in Anaheim before we ask any of our departments like the libraries to continue taking these budget cuts. Because libraries aren't just a place to read anymore, they've become the new community centers of our streets. They're the place that the kids go to not get shot by the gang. They're the place that kids go to not become part of a gang, because they're accepted and they get to crawl into a book and escape a really, really rough life sometimes and go to this fantasy place for a little bit. And to deprive them of that is a criminal act. And it's a shame that we continue to allow that to be cut. We need to prioritize, so we need to prioritize.
The library system is usually in any community the backbone of the community. So bottom line is, yes, I support the library system. A lot of you have read my plan, a lot of you have not, but if you look at my plan, one of the things I strongly suggest is an audit of the city budget. Second thing I would say is we have to look at the waste. Cynthia brought it up, so I'm just gonna go there. Public utilities, we have a great public utilities department, but whenever you see them working, you see Siemens next to them, you see another subcontractor and another subcontractor. So we need to see where our money's going and take that and reprioritize it into the budget, put it in the budget. If we have public utilities, why are we subcontracting? Why are we outsourcing all of these things? One of the things that I have said in my plan, and I heard somebody echo it a couple weeks ago, is we've got cable.com or whatever they are all over District 4 right now, digging holes in the ground. Well, my plan is if they want to dig a hole, then they're going to have to go a mile in each direction repaving our streets, because they're taking away from the strength of the street by digging holes randomly for whatever they're doing. The point that I'm making there is that we can reprioritize the budget by looking at it, and we can put it into our library system. Now, I don't have all the answers because I haven't seen the budget process in effect. I've gone to the workshops and things like that, but there are a lot of things that when they talk about behind closed doors that I'm not privy to. So today I'll tell you, yes, I'll do everything in my power to strengthen our library budgets and our library system. 6 months from now when I'm mayor, you may say, but Robert, you promised us this, and there may be other issues that we don't know about. So I'm not gonna sit here and attack anybody for prioritizing different things in the budget, but what I'm gonna say, we need to look at it, we need to make our library stronger. That's where you go for internet. If you don't have internet at home, that's where you go for, just to get away from it all. But at the same time, and this is so vitally important, at the same time, you can't just look at one piece of the pie. You've got to look at the pie as a whole.
Okay, so our final question for this evening is perfect. Is from Mark Richard, I believe it's Davies or Davils.
Daniels.
Davils, thank you.
Daniels.
Daniels, got it, thank you. We'll start with you, Mr. Sadhu. What are your top 5 priorities right after taking office? And this will kind of be your final statement as well.
Number 1 issue in Anaheim is homelessness. I will ensure you all that within the first 6 months of my mayorship, I'll take that issue very seriously to clean up the parks, clean up the neighborhoods, so we all can enjoy our parks and neighborhood. Number 2, I'm going to fight very hard to make sure needle exchange program do not come to Anaheim. I'll fight very hard. Number 3, I'll make sure that public safety will be given enough tools to fight the crime. Today, the crime is off the roof right now. When I was your city council member, crime was actually 16% decrease in violent crime. Today, it is almost 46%. I'll also make sure, my next point is that we should keep creating more responsible development in Anaheim to keep growing the pie so we can have our neighborhood safe, neighborhood cleaned up. At the same time, you're going to see me work very hard to make sure that the big corporations should help us invest our money to clean up the neighborhood, just like West Anaheim, where we have Beach Boulevard has been on the plan for many, many years. Never been fixed. It's always a plan, but never been done. I think it's about time that we must go ahead and take care of the Beach Boulevard. You see between the Stanton and Buena Park, it's beautiful. But in between, right there on the Beach Boulevard, where Anaheim side, it looks really filthy. You got massage parlors. You got very bad, rundown motels. All these need to change. I would like to thank all of the Assistance League Tonight Forum. My wife, Jen, and I raised our family here in Anaheim, and I want others to experience the same hometown feeling that we did when my kids were growing up. I achieved the American dream. I began my career as an engineer, saved enough money to start a business, and currently I still employ 85 employees. During my service as a council member and mayor pro tem, Anaheim moved forward. I'm proudly to say that I fought for the taxpayers. I voted to support police with 16% decrease in violent crime, encouraged new parks and development, championed creation of Anaheim Health Fair and a job fair, helping close to about 2,000 residents find jobs. My proven record as a councilman combined with my background as an entrepreneur, small business owner who spent decades of managing critical issues will enable to provide strong common sense leadership as your mayor. If you elect me as your mayor, my plans, what I provided you 5 of them, I'll strongly stay on top of it. I respectfully ask for your vote tonight. Thank you.
Top 5 priorities. Homelessness, obviously, it's less than 1% of our population that is engaged in this public health crisis, and yet the enormous resources that are going here. No matter what else we do, if we fail at the fact that human beings are sleeping on the sidewalks, we failed. I want a strategic plan for Anaheim, and that's not a sexy campaign slogan you can put on a bumper sticker, but we need this. A strategic plan is the organizational equivalent of a business plan. We haven't had one in Anaheim in my adult lifetime. So we need to go out and talk to the community and say, when our stewardship of this city is done and we hand the keys to the next generation, what do we want this city to look like? And then task staff with finding a step-by-step plan for how we get from where we are to where we want to be. And at that point, our budget will start to reflect our values, because we will start prioritizing the things we want for the future instead of what lobbyists have sucker punched politicians into proposing. Because if you've ever sat through a council meeting and said, it looks like these people are making it up as they go along, they are. They pitch any wackadoodle idea that a lobbyist brings them, and they put it on the agenda, and they send staff scurrying off to spend our dollars on it. And if we have a strategic plan and somebody comes up with this crazy idea, we go, well, where's that in the plan? It's not, no, it doesn't go on the agenda, period. I will negotiate with the corporations, including Angels and Disney. Those are negotiations that will take place with the next mayor, and it's important to make sure that the people on our side of the table weren't hired by the people on the other side of the table and are looking out for the people of Anaheim and not the corporate interests. And that's not anti-business, that's just pro-Anaheim. I want to increase public safety through pension reform so we can afford to hire more cops, so that we can afford to put that 4th person on a 4-person fire truck instead of the 3 that we're running on. But we can't do that as long as we continue the completely imbalanced pension system. And that is ultimately why our public safety unions are supporting certain candidates. You hear supported by police and fire. No, they're supported by the police and fire unions because they will get what they want out of them. I want to institute a citizen oversight and audit commission so that you have the right to sit on this commission and look at any department in Anaheim and help us find the waste and mismanagement, because we know it's out there. I've identified about $13 million a year that should be going to our general fund. About $10 million of it is collected and diverted to another project, and we can put it to work pretty quickly. Another $3 million is owed to us, and it doesn't look like it's being collected because staff hasn't been given the proper instructions. And we can collect that and start recouping our money. That's just from one project. Anybody who thinks that there's no waste, anybody here think there's no waste in Government, didn't think I'd have any takers for that. Staff doesn't have time to look at this, so we'll task you with doing it, like a little grand jury of local citizens. And ultimately, we need investigations of some of the past behavior of our city council members. Just because they're leaving office, just because some of those agreements were canceled, doesn't mean that there wasn't conflict of interest that was taking place at the time. And we need to start fresh and make sure that as we move forward, we have confidence in the agreements that we are implementing and know that they were done lawfully and with the best interests of the people of Anaheim at heart. And there are too many people that I talk to out there who don't have that confidence in the decisions of our past leaders. Most importantly, I want to continue what Mayor Tate has been doing with standing up for the people of Anaheim against corporate subsidies that are not needed in order to improve our community. If anybody thinks Disney is going to pack up and leave because we don't give them a kickback of tax dollars, I've got a glass train station to sell you. So I thank you all for coming. My only reason for running for office is I want this to be a nice place where I can be a little old lady someday when I admit to being old. I want to make sure that my walker doesn't trip over a crack in a sidewalk, and when I fall and I can't get up, there's somebody to pick up the 911 call that I make. And I haven't had that confidence in our city. And I want to make a difference for you, and because selfishly, I want this to be a place where I can grow old. And I thank you so much for sharing your time with us tonight.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. And Cynthia, it's gonna be many, many years before you become old. My plan is real simple. There aren't 5, it's 1. And the Williams plan from day one has been safety, and then the many assets, the many facets of being safe. But it's a safety plan, it's a safety program, and that's all that we want. It's simply making sure our children are safe. When they're riding around at nighttime, we want to make sure that we put vests and helmets on them. You don't have that now. The comment was made by 2 of the candidates up here that we have really bad sidewalks and curbs, which we do. So we need to make sure that we have safer streets and sidewalks for our students. Safer city. You know, we had 2 police officers injured this past Saturday, and I heard they were doing better when I talked to the police officers in the parking lot before. But you know, we need to make sure our police officers and our firefighters are safe. You know, I'm supported by the police and fire departments. Well, but if you don't know the difference between a engine and a tiller truck, it doesn't do you any good to have the support. You need to know what they're working on. You know, if you don't know the difference between a paramedic and a firefighter, then it doesn't do you any good to be supported by them. We need to have someone out there that knows the difference, that can talk the talk and walk the walk. We need to make sure that our streets are safe for our females. You know, I found out the hard way in the state of California, all my girls at 17 with my consent can have tasers, and they do. That's kind of scary when you have to give your girls tasers because you're worried about their safety, you know, and with the instructions that if they get that close to you, they deserve to be tased with 6 million votes. I kind of don't want that for the city of Anaheim. I want to make sure the city of Anaheim maybe goes back to the old days where you can leave your doors unlocked, where you know your neighbors, where you can say hi to them, where you know your police officers, get them out of the police cars. It's a safety platform, and that's what we have to do. We have to work with each and every one of us. It has to be where you can walk out this door tonight and you're not looking for someone to walk with you to your car, but you know you can walk to your car safely. It's all about what we can have for the future, but the future only will exist by what we do today. And if we make the mistake of electing anybody who has been part of the past problems, then those past problems are going to be the problems of tomorrow. We need a new start. I'm so sorry that Lori couldn't be here, and I hope Lori's doing well, but Lori makes a comment about rookies. You know, the rookies are in the game too, and you might need that new thought process. You might need that new energy. You might need that new attitude. And that's what my plan is about, bringing all that to bear. I've told everybody from day one term. I'm not looking for anything else. I'm still alive from Mitch Caldwell's Facebook ads. I want to help my community. I want to help my city. I'm not looking for higher office. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out tonight. Thank you for the Assistant League for putting this on. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. And I appreciate some of you who've been at every single one of these forums. It's been great. And thank you to all the candidates. My name is Robert Williams. I'd love to be your next mayor, but I think you're in good hands one way or another. Thank you. You can't have it.
Nuts. Oh, they want me to say federal prosecutor 6 more times. People love it. Thank you also to the Assistance League for putting this on. I know how much hard work it is, and as busy as you are, to do this extra civic duty is wonderful, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm going to echo the sentiments of some of the people that have already spoke, because I think we do have a lot of the same passions, and we identify a lot of the same issues in our city that we want to work on. But we're going to get to them. We're going to get to those goals in different ways. And I think that's what's going to be important. Obviously, I think the homeless issue is going to be the #1 issue that the next mayor is going to have to face. But unlike a lot of the issues that we talk about, this one is solvable. There are resources at the county that we can access. There are partnerships that a strong leader in a city can make to make sure that we are building permanent supportive housing with resources for the homeless, so that we can get them out of our parks and housed and get them the help that they need. Another issue that I want to focus on is the cost of housing. And we have the regular cost of housing in Orange County now is over $700,000, but the average median income is about $87,000. So how do we ask, and we look at our high school graduates, our college graduates, where are we going to put them? How do we give them the opportunity to continue on and be a multi-generational family in Anaheim? It's getting harder and harder. And is also not sexy issue, just jumping on Cynthia's thing, is I'm a big believer in really looking at our general plan. Because if you want to build housing, the #1 thing that you need to do is make sure that it is cohesive with your general plan. And we can look at where we have density right now. Where do we have parking issues? Where do we have people that are in a single family home, but we have 2 to 3 families living there? Through a general plan process, you can bring in the community, get the community input, and identify places where we can build housing for our working families. Obviously, with my law enforcement background, public safety is extremely important to me. And we want to work on shortening our response times. And I think by solving the homelessness issue, we're gonna free up a lot of police time so that we have shorter response times. We're able to reduce the amount of break-ins and residential burglaries that we are experiencing, and really focus on making our neighborhoods safe, and fighting tax subsidies. I mean, with the deals coming down the pipeline, with the Angels, with the Ducks, the continuous building that's going to be going on in the resort district, we want to make sure that we are a partner with the resort district and with a lot of these major corporations, but we're not getting taken for a ride. We need to advocate and have someone that understands that their fiduciary duty is to the taxpayers and the residents of Anaheim, not those that have spent millions of dollars getting us elected. And lastly, I want to talk about just the culture of kindness that our current mayor has started. And I think it's been something that's been very transformative and inspirational. And as you kind of go through this, I'm very proud to have the endorsements and the support that I do. The support of our city employees, bipartisan support from Republican elected officials and Democratic elected officials. But I think at the end of the day, Anaheimers don't care. They want someone that is smart. They want someone that's hardworking. They want someone that's fair and honest. And I think it really comes down to character. And I think we can see in this election what people's character is. I am fine with Ms. Ward or Mr. Williams questioning my stances on a living wage. And I'm fine with somebody questioning my stance on tax subsidies and whether they're good, and whether we allocate more resources to the fire department at the expense of other areas or not. I think that's absolutely fair and something that should be addressed. But that's not the character of everybody that's in this race. And so I'm going to just take a closing moment to address a couple of things. I do think it's fair to bring up the fact that I'm a trial lawyer. That's how prosecutors put people in prison. For those of you that don't watch Law and Order, we do it after a trial. I think that's fair. I think it's fair to mention that I now work in my family business, a business that my father started from the ground up and has turned into quite a successful business. I'm very proud to be a part of my family business. But what I think is ridiculous is for a candidate to put a picture of my home and mail it to every single voter in the city of Anaheim. When you're a prosecutor, people get out of jail every day that would like to know where I live. And that's just a question of character. In questioning where I stand on the needle exchange, when I have said in every single forum that I support the city council's 7-0 position to join the county lawsuit, but to try to make people in Anaheim think that I support a needle exchange program in our parks in Anaheim as a federal prosecutor is ridiculous. But the last one, to try to insinuate in any way as somebody that was in our child predators and in our sex crimes unit, that fought human trafficking in Anaheim, that put child pornographers and predators in prison, that I would in any way support someone that gave a lenient sentence to a lenient sentence to a defendant is just a lie. It is outrageous. And I think that candidate should put that letter that they allude to on their Facebook page tomorrow. Because I've never seen this letter. I have never supported Judge Kelly's decision in that case. I've never taken a position. So for someone to now try to insinuate that I would put not only my own children's safety, but your children and grandchildren's safety in jeopardy is a question of character. There are a lot of good people running in this race. So if you don't vote for me, and I obviously would like all of you to do it, but if you don't support me, support somebody with character. Thank you.
We want to thank Jim Schwab again and the Business Expo Center for supplying, and Sally Ann Caterings and the Assistance League as well. And I also just wanted to do a little shout out to any family member of a candidate, and thank you. I see a few of you here, and thank you for giving us your loved ones and allowing them to serve us instead of being home with you, because we know that even when they're home, they're probably raging about all the things that they need to take care of. And as you can see, we have a passionate group. It does my heart such good to know that there's these people and these people that will carry the city forward in whatever role that we all play. And on a final note of celebration, let's take a picture. Okay, so everybody say, yay, for Anaheim! Yay! Okay, candidates. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time.